Okay, picture this. You're scrolling through your phone at 11 p.m., you should be asleep. But instead, you're looking at a listing for a 2-bedroom place that's honestly kind of ugly. The carpet looks like it survived 3 different decades of bad decisions. And yet you're doing the math in your head anyway. Mortgage payment, property taxes, maybe an HOA fee that nobody warned you about. And somewhere in the back of your mind, this little voice goes, renting is just throwing money away, right? I need to buy something, anything. And then, a few tabs over, you've also got your rent renewal sitting there, quietly asking for 8% more than last year, and you're thinking, well, maybe that voice has a point. My name is Josh, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, about the stories we tell ourselves about it, and about why a decision as personal as where do I live somehow turns into the most anxiety-inducing math problem most people ever attempt without a calculator. Because here's the thing. Almost everyone treats renting versus buying like it's a moral question. Like renting is failing at adulthood, and buying is winning at it. And honestly, that's not just wrong, it's expensive. It's the kind of wrong that can quietly cost you tens of thousands of dollars, or make you tens of thousands of dollars, depending on which way you get talked into. So today we're going to actually run the numbers, not the bumper sticker version, not your uncle's opinion from Thanksgiving dinner. The actual math, the stuff nobody puts in the headline because it's a little less satisfying than buying is always better or renting is always smarter. Neither of those is true. And by the end of this, you're going to have a completely different way of looking at that listing you were staring at last night. So let's start with the myth that basically runs this entire conversation in most people's heads, and it's this idea that rent is wasted money while a mortgage payment is somehow building wealth. You've heard it. Maybe you've said it. I definitely said it, back before I actually sat down and did the arithmetic. Here's the reality, though. A mortgage payment isn't one thing. It's actually 4 things wearing a trench coat pretending to be one number. You've got principal, which is the only part that's genuinely yours in the sense that it builds equity. You've got interest, which especially in the early years of a loan is the overwhelming majority of the payment. I mean, on a 30-year mortgage, for the first several years you might be paying 80, 85% interest and only a sliver toward principal. Then you've got property taxes, which you're paying forever, by the way. There's no payoff date for those. And then insurance, and often maintenance costs that renters simply never think about because, well, they call the landlord and it's not their problem anymore. So when someone says rent is money down the drain, what they're really doing is comparing rent, one number, against only the equity-building sliver of a mortgage payment, while conveniently ignoring the interest, the taxes, the insurance, and the roof that's going to need replacing in year 12. That's not a fair fight. That's like comparing the price of a candy bar to the price of a car and only counting the car's tires. Here's a quick story. A friend of mine, I'll just call her Priya because that's not her name and I don't need her mad at me, bought a condo in her late 20s because everyone around her kept saying, "You're just throwing money away on rent." 5 years later, she wanted to move for a job, sold the place, and after the realtor fees, the closing costs, and some repairs she had to make just to get it sold, she basically broke even. Meanwhile, her rent-paying friend from the same building had been investing the difference the whole time and had, actual liquid money to move wherever she wanted, whenever she wanted. That's not a knock on buying. It's a knock on buying for the wrong reasons, on a timeline that doesn't fit. The takeaway here isn't renting is better. It's that you have to actually separate the emotional story from the financial one. Ask yourself, am I buying because the math works for my situation or because I feel like I'm supposed to? All right, so let's actually build the math because I promised you real numbers and I'm not going to wander off into vague platitudes. The concept you need is something called the opportunity cost of a down payment. And honestly, this is the single most under-discussed part of this entire decision. When you buy a home, you're not just committing to a monthly payment, you're also parking a chunk of money, often tens of thousands of dollars, into a down payment, closing costs, maybe some furniture and repairs right out of the gate. That money stops being available to do anything else. It's frozen. It's a block of ice in your financial freezer. Now, if you rent instead, that same chunk of money doesn't have to just sit there doing nothing. It can go into an investment account, a retirement fund, wherever you'd otherwise put long-term savings. And over time, especially over a decade or two, invested money tends to grow. Not guaranteed. Nothing in investing is guaranteed, but historically, diversified long-term investments have grown meaningfully over multi-decade periods. So here's the actual comparison you should be running, and it's basically got 3 ingredients. 1, the total monthly cost of owning, mortgage, taxes, insurance, maintenance, all of it, compared to the total monthly cost of renting an equivalent place. 2, what happens to the difference between those two numbers if you invested instead, assuming renting is cheaper month to month, which it usually is in the early years. And 3, how much equity you'd actually have built in the home by the time you'd sell it, factoring in that selling a home isn't free. You're typically looking at somewhere around 8 to 10% of the sale price disappearing into agent commissions, closing costs, and incidental repairs. When you actually run those 3 ingredients together, what you find is something that surprises almost everyone. The break-even point, meaning the point where buying starts to actually beat renting and investing, is usually somewhere between 5 and 7 years, sometimes longer depending on your local market. If you're planning to stay put for 15, 20 years, buying tends to pull way ahead because you stop paying that transaction cost repeatedly and the mortgage eventually just ends, while rent never does. But if there's a real chance you move in 2 or 3 years, new job, relationship changes, whatever life throws at you, the math very often favors renting, even though it feels less grown up. This is the part where I'll be honest with you. Nobody knows the future. You might plan to stay 5 years and end up staying 15, or plan to stay forever and get a job offer across the country 18 months later. So this isn't about predicting your life perfectly. It's about being honest about the odds and building in a margin of safety instead of assuming the best case. Let's talk about something people almost never bring up, which is what I like to call the maintenance tax. And no, I don't mean an actual government tax. I mean the constant, low-grade financial and emotional cost of owning a physical object that is, whether you like it or not, slowly falling apart the entire time you own it. Homes need things. Roofs need replacing every 15 to 25 years, depending on material. And that's not a small check. That's often a 5-figure check. Water heaters die, usually at the most inconvenient possible moment, because apparently they've got a sense of humor. HVAC systems need servicing and eventually replacing. Foundations settle. Pipes age. And the general rule of thumb that a lot of financial planners use is that you should budget somewhere around 1 to 2% of your home's value every single year just for maintenance and repairs. On a $350,000 home, that's potentially $3,500 to $7,000 a year on average, some years less, some years, like the year your sewer line decides to collapse, dramatically more. Renters don't carry this risk. If the water heater dies in a rental, you make a phone call, you're mildly inconvenienced for a day, and it's genuinely not your money on the line. That's a real quantifiable value, and it's one of the reasons renting isn't the lesser choice. It's actually a form of risk transfer. You're paying your landlord in part to hold the risk of the roof, the furnace, the foundation, so you don't have to. I think about this like renting an apartment being kind of like leasing a car versus owning one outright. When you own it, sure, you build equity in the vehicle, but you also eat every repair bill, every unexpected transmission issue, every check engine light that shows up on a random Tuesday. Leasing trades long-term ownership for predictability. Neither one is objectively smarter. It depends what you value and what your life actually looks like right now. The actionable piece here is simple, but people skip it constantly. If you're buying, Build a real maintenance fund into your monthly budget from day one. Don't just budget the mortgage payment and call it done. Treat that 1 to 2% number as a bill you pay to a savings account every single month, whether anything breaks that month or not. Future you, standing in a flooded basement, will thank present you enormously. Now here's a piece of the puzzle that's honestly more psychological than mathematical, but it matters just as much, maybe more. And that's the value of flexibility. There's this thing that happens when you own a home, where the home starts, in a weird way, owning a piece of you back. Your decisions get anchored to it. Job across the country with better pay and a better team. Well, now you've got to think about selling, or renting it out and becoming a landlord you never wanted to be, or eating those transaction costs we talked about earlier. Relationship changes, family situation shifts. You just realize the neighborhood isn't what it used to be. All of that becomes a much heavier lift when there's a mortgage and a deed attached to your name. Renting, for all the grief it gets, buys you something that's genuinely hard to put a price on: optionality. The ability to leave a 12-month lease and go somewhere else, chase an opportunity, downsize after a life change, upsize when a family grows, all without the multi-month, multi-thousand-dollar process of listing, staging, negotiating, and closing. Early in your career especially, when your income and your life circumstances might be shifting fast, that flexibility can be worth more than the equity you'd be building by owning. I'll be honest, when I was younger, I judged renting a little. I thought it meant you hadn't gotten your life together yet. And then I watched friends buy houses in cities they ended up desperately wanting to leave 2 years later, and I watched other friends rent for years, invest aggressively, and eventually buy exactly the right home in exactly the right place because they weren't rushed into a decision by a feeling that they should have bought sooner. Flexibility isn't a consolation prize. Sometimes it's the entire strategy. So here's the actionable question to ask yourself, and it's more honest than, can I afford this? How confident am I that I want to be in this specific place for at least the next 5 years? Not probably, not I hope so, actually confident. If the honest answer is uncertain, that uncertainty has a real financial value, and it usually points toward renting for now and revisiting the decision once your life has a bit more shape to it. Let's bring in one more piece, because I don't want you walking away thinking this is some anti-buying video. It's absolutely not. And that's the long-term power of a fixed mortgage payment in a world where rent basically never stops climbing. One of the quietest, most underappreciated advantages of owning is that a fixed-rate mortgage locks your principal and interest payment in place for the life of the loan. 30 years from now, assuming you didn't refinance into something new, that payment is the same number it was on day one, while rent, decade after decade, tends to march upward with inflation, with local demand, with whatever the market will bear. Ask anyone who bought a home 15 years ago what their mortgage payment looks like today compared to what a similar rental would cost now, and you'll usually hear something like relief, honestly, sometimes even disbelief, at how far it's diverged. This is where time genuinely becomes buying's best friend. In year one, owning often costs more than renting once you count everything. But by year 15 or 20, that fixed payment starts looking almost quaint next to current rental prices, and meanwhile, you've been building equity the entire time on top of it. This is exactly why the "how long will I stay" question from earlier matters so much. It's the single biggest lever in this whole decision. More than interest rates, more than home prices, more than almost anything else people obsess over. And look, I know some of you are watching this thinking, well, none of this matters because I can't even afford a down payment right now anyway. That's real, and it's worth its own conversation. But even there, the math still applies to your future self. Understanding that the down payment isn't dead money if you don't have it yet, it's actually protecting you from a maintenance tax, And a transaction cost you're not ready to absorb yet is its own kind of financial piece. You're not behind. You're just early. So let's pull this all together, because I know that was a lot, and honestly, this is one of those topics where the nuance matters more than the headline. Renting isn't wasting money, and buying isn't automatically wealth building. They're just two different financial structures, with different risks, different flexibility, and different break-even points. And the right one for you depends almost entirely on how long you're staying put, how much risk you want sitting on your own shoulders, and what your life actually looks like right now, not what you think it's supposed to look like by a certain age. If there's one thing I want you to walk away with, it's this. Stop asking, is renting or buying better, because that question doesn't have an answer. Start asking, given my actual timeline, my actual risk tolerance, and my actual life right now, which one serves me better for the next chapter? That's a question you can actually answer with real numbers, instead of a question that just makes you feel behind at 11 p.m. While you're scrolling listings you can't quite justify yet. And honestly, whichever way you land, renting for now while you invest the difference, or buying because you've found the place and the timeline that makes sense, the real win here isn't the decision itself. It's that you made it on purpose. You ran the actual math instead of inheriting somebody else's anxiety about what a responsible adult is supposed to do with their money. That, more than any spreadsheet, is what building real wealth actually looks like. So take a breath. You're not behind. You're just finally doing the math for real. And that alone puts you ahead of almost everyone still scrolling those listings at 11 p.m., feeling guilty about a decision they haven't even properly thought through yet. Now, if you found this valuable, make sure to press that like button, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.